Hey guys, I'm Matt Hernandez, and today I'm going to show you how to use mask mode on the FJ400 to make cutouts. Okay, so we're in the studio and I'm going to take a picture for a senior banner of a cheerleader. So that can be challenging to cut girls' hair out, or really any hair. And a function the FJ400 has that a lot of people don't know about is called mask mode. And it can allow you to take up to 6 pictures in a row, which for this case we're just going to use 2. We're going to use one for her and then one for the background. So the goal here is to get a silhouette so that we can bring that into Photoshop and then easily invert it and make it a mask so that we don't really have to do any work to cut her out. It's already going to be done for us. So we're going to have her on her spot here. We've got 2 lights. We've got 2 FJ400s. One of them has a 3x4 softbox on it for the main light. That's just the only light we're going to use to light her. And it's going to be camera left about 45 degrees. We have a V flat on the other side, and the softbox is angled at that a little bit, so it's going to bounce back and fill in the shadows on her left side. And then we have the other light behind her that's directly behind her, so she's going to hide it. It's going to light the wall because the banner is only going to be like a little bit below the waist up. So it's going to be angled directly at the wall. We've probably got it, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 feet off of it. I didn't measure, but I just know it's far enough back that it's going to light the wall enough to make it totally white without blowing it out and reflecting back on her too much. So we have a 55-inch wide umbrella reflector. So the 7-inch reflectors that come on, or actually I think they're 5.5, that come on the FJ400s are a little bit smaller. So these have a little bit different angle and a little bit bigger of a spread, so it's going to spread the light out a little bit more. And you can see I've got the modeling light on, so you can see where the light is going, what direction it's going. And I did that on purpose just to see what the fall off was going to be like. I think that this is far enough back that it's going to do a pretty good job of lighting that totally white. So in order to do this, you want to come closer so I can explain it. So in order to do this, we've got our channel, which is channel 13 on both lights. The other light is on group A, and this is on group B, so we can control those from our remote. So you go to menu, we're on menu 1 right now, and we're gonna go to menu 4, and then you hit mask, and then all is gonna be how many shots you're gonna take all together. And then sequence is gonna be what number this strobe is in the sequence. So we've got 2 strobes, so it's set to 2, and then this is the second shot. So the main lights and the main picture is going to be the first shot. This one's going to be number 2 in the sequence, and that's going to be it. So you see that little mask icon pop up beside the modeling light icon whenever you've got it turned on. So that's all you have to do, and that'll take them consecutively. So I'm going to go back to menu 1 and just hit test, just to clear everything out, see that we're ready to go. All right, so now we can take the picture. Okay, so we've got her in her spot. We've got the camera on the tripod, which is very important. That's one thing I didn't say before. You don't need to move, and they don't need to move either. And you need to make sure they know that, so they're aware, so that they're not breathing heavy or anything like that, because if the mask doesn't line up, if there's any movement at all, it's not gonna work right, okay? So, because the mask has to lay perfectly over the picture. So that means you've got to take the pictures consecutively very quick, and they need to be in the exact same spot. So keep that in mind. So you can set your camera to high-speed continuous or use a remote or whatever you need to do, but just make sure there's no movement. So we're set at 1/200th of a second, f8, ISO 100, pretty straightforward settings. I'm on flash white balance. So it's gonna take the picture of her first, then it's gonna take the background picture, and that should be all that we need. We should make sure they line up. Okay, we've got the main light on 7 and the back light on 8. So, okay, all right, so pop your hip out so your weight's on your back leg. Good, and then you wanna do hands on hips or you wanna cross your arms? Okay, all right, put your hair in front on the right, on this side. All right, and I'm gonna set this to, give me 1 second. Okay, so I am gonna set my camera to high-speed continuous. I don't have a remote, so that way it'll take it as quick as possible. Okay. All right, so we'll do 2 poses just so that we have a couple options. All right, so do this one first. All right, ready? Good. So we took actually 3 on accident there. So I'm gonna clear out, so I'm gonna go ahead and take one more because it's gonna go in sequences of 2. Did that do that right? 1, 2. I was out of order before. Okay, now we should be ready to go. Okay, all right, go ahead and put your hands on your hips. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Good. Okay, because I was on high-speed continuous there, it took 3 shots, but we're only gonna use 2 of them. So that's all for shooting. Now we're gonna jump into Photoshop, and I'm gonna show you how to actually use that as a mask to cut her out. Okay, so now we're back at the computer. We're gonna jump into Lightroom and Photoshop, and I'm gonna show you how to make this cutout with the images we got from using mask mode with the FJ400. Okay, so here is the image of her. Well, we've got a couple. And then there's the silhouette of the first one. I think I like this second one better. So you can see that this is not, I'll hit F for full screen. This is not completely a silhouette. You could get one if you'd have to pull her off the background or pull the subject off the background more. What's happening basically is to get that white, you have to have the light bright enough to where it's gonna make it white and not gray. And when that happens, it's gonna reflect a little bit and create some wrap, because she's probably, like I said, I don't know, maybe 7 feet from the background. So ideally, you know, you could pull her way off and it would be fine. That wouldn't happen. You can see that it's not happening a lot, mainly just on her skin and hair in a couple places. So it's not too bad. It's just, and it's very subtle, so we can take care of it. Now, if it's too much, then you're gonna have a problem, because then if you have actual like bright highlights then that are looking like edge lights, that's gonna be too much. So you wanna make sure that you light it just enough to be barely white, and then you can make, and the most important part is the edges. And then you can fix it a little bit in Photoshop, which we're gonna do right now. So, okay, so it doesn't bother me that she's not totally black as a silhouette. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna hold Option, and I'm gonna click on my black slider, and I'm gonna set my black point, which is I want her to be completely black and the background to be completely white. So actually, let's do white first. I'm gonna slide it, click Option and slide it to the right. And so the areas that are totally white right there, that's what's white, which is what we want for the mask, okay? So now the background's totally white. So you saw that her uniform kind of brightened up too, because it's got white in it. So now let's go to the blacks and then do the same thing. And we're just gonna go all the way to the left. And then on the shadows, might be make those a little bit darker. And maybe up the contrast. So I'm gonna zoom in here, press Command Z. So if I move the contrast to the right, it's increasing the size of the silhouette, which I don't know that I want. I don't necessarily want like all this detail. Let's actually also, before we go any further, go up here on in the basic panel and click black and white. So we're gonna be black and white. Okay. So for the most part, this is good. Let's maybe darken the shadows and see what that does. And then maybe up the contrast a little bit. Okay. All right, so that's pretty close. We can press backslash, so there's before and there's after. I wanna make sure that we're not losing any detail here. And maybe like a little bit of that jewelry, but it looks pretty good for the most part, because that's a very small detail. Yeah, see, it's getting the flyaways. Now we're losing a little bit there, but that's okay. All right, that's gonna work for what we need it for. All right, let's go to the main picture of her, and then I'm just gonna go to my standard preset that I created that I use most of the time. And maybe go down just a little bit with the exposure, okay? So there's before and there's after. All right, so I'm gonna hold Shift and then Control click and then do Edit in, Open as layers in Photoshop at the very bottom here. Okay. Okay. All right, so they're on top of each other, so I'm gonna press Command left bracket and then move that to the bottom. Okay, so now what we wanna do before we do anything else is go in here, and then I'm gonna hit D on my keyboard for default colors over here, black and white, and then I've got black as my foreground. I'm gonna hit B for my brush. Make sure I'm at 100% flow and opacity. Make sure that I'm at normal blending mode, and then I'm gonna but you wanna make sure you paint on the inside here. I'm gonna get some of these areas where it was wrapping a little bit, just to make sure that we're totally black. I'm gonna hold Shift and click there. So I can go straight across on that little area. Oop. I don't wanna go outside the lines, because this is the mask that we're creating here. So I'm just basically just refining it now. And I'm not gonna be too intense here. We just want to make sure we've got it for the most part. So I don't want to make this last too long. All right, I think that's good. Press Command 0 to zoom out. Now I'm going to press Command I to inverse that layer, and then I'm going to go to my channels tab, and then I'm going to hold Command and click that thumbnail on RGB, and now it's going to make that my selection. Okay, so I'm going to turn that layer off, and then I'm going to go down to the one of her and then hit the mask button, and then now we've got our mask. So I'm going to press Z to get my zoom tool, and then you can zoom in and see how great of a job that did. Now, I didn't use a remote, so there's a possibility that I moved, even though I did fire pretty rapidly there. And it looks like, yeah, it looks like right there, it may be off just a hair, but that's, again, that's why it's important that you don't move when you're doing this. So shooting with the remote or shooting really quickly, that's, ideally, that's what you want to make sure that you do. Okay, we can fix that. No, it's not going to be a big deal. So, okay, now we need a background to put her on. So I've got a football field here. So I'm actually going to close that because I did a little bit extra to it in Lightroom before we started the video. So there's before. Basically, I just opened up some shadows. I put a mask over the field so that it wasn't in shadow anymore and brightened it up. If I go here to my masks and look, you can see. So I masked the sky, and then I inverted it, and then I increased the shadows and the blacks a little bit and the whites so that everything showed up a little bit better. So it looked more, oh, I turned it off. So that way it looked, you could see detail in the field. So we can use this as our background. Okay, so I'm going to press Command E to open that. Okay, so I'm going to press Command A to copy, Command C to paste, and then that little tilde command to go over to my other document. And then I'm going to press Command B to paste, and then Command left bracket to move it down. So it's behind her. Then I'm going to get V, press V for my move tool, and then move this around till I get it where I want it. So maybe like down like here, press Command T to transform it. I'm going to move my control point down here, hold Option, so it's going to resize it from the control point. And I've got my length checked here, so the width and height stay proportional. And then get it about where we want it. I want to be able to see that light a little bit. That's probably going to be better over here, right there. I think that's good. Hit Enter. Okay. All right, so now let's zoom in, and then our mask, like I said, is a little bit off. So what you can do is go ahead and go up to this layer, uncheck the link, and then press V for my move tool, and then click on the mask, and then I'm just going to press the up arrow key. Now it's important that you unlink the mask, otherwise the whole layer is going to move. And then I'm going to just press the arrow buttons until I get it lined up. So now her jewelry is lined up right there. That looks great. Yep, that looks pretty close to perfect. Now this part of her arm is still not lining up. That's okay. I'm going to get my brush and press X to flip those colors. I'm going to make sure I'm on my mask, and I'm going to paint away the gray. I'm going to hold Shift so I can go a little bit quicker here in the straight line. I think that's the only part that's a problem. And like I said about 10 times already, if you don't move, it won't be a problem. Okay. All right, the rest of it looks great, and the hair is the most important part, and the hair looks pretty awesome. So that's much harder to cut out when you use other techniques. All right, Command 0 to zoom out. Okay, so now I'm going to delete my mask layer because I don't need it anymore. And that's pretty much it. So you can see how easy that is to mask a subject and drop them into a background. Saves you a ton of time in post. You know, I've used the pen tool a lot. I still use that a lot, but this just makes things a lot more simple whenever you have, like, I don't know, a bunch of seniors for a football team or cheerleading squad or whatever that you need to cut out, or any kind of graphic. Then, you know, if you can utilize that, then if you've got FJ400s, it makes things a lot easier. Okay, so that looks really good. I'm really happy with this. It does look a little bit like a cutout put onto a background because the color doesn't match 100%. The background is also too sharp, and it's got grain in it, and she doesn't. So if we zoom in, you can actually see that. So if I took this picture of her on the field, the background would not be that in focus, obviously. So we have some things we need to do to finish this off, to blend it together, to make it sell like a real picture, like that was taking it on the field. So if you want to see that process, if you want to see me finish it off, head over to Patreon. I'm going to finish the video off there. We'll put the link below. As far as YouTube goes, I appreciate everybody watching. I hope you got something out of it. It's a very useful technique. I think it can really help out photographers cut out all kinds of stuff, not just people, but products also. So if you did get something out of it, make sure you hit the like, the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell so that you get notified when we post new content. There's going to be a lot more to come. We'll see you again next time.